All right, season's greetings, everybody. It's finally Spooktober. Real happy about that. Real excited about that. We've got someone on the podcast today, someone who I trained under for a little while when I was in high school and looked, I didn't have the facial hair yet, but I definitely had the hair. Yeah, I look like a prepubescent Thor at that time. But anyways, everybody, welcome Mike Flach to the podcast. MMA coach, MMA fighter. You live a pretty interesting life, dude. Happy to have you on.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm alive. I'm
Yeah,
alive.
yeah, me too. That's same a little bit.
Bored out of my mind a lot of the time, but I'm alive. So first and foremost, of course, you are the coach at Millennia in Chino Hills. That's initially how I met you and was
Yeah.
familiar with a lot of your career stuff. Like, how did you come about that? Like becoming an MMA coach and pursuing that as a passion.
So I started. I got into like I guess you would say combat sports in wrestling. I wrestled in high school, and one of my coaches was David Avila. You've trained with him before, and he was fighting and he trained in Millennia. And after I got out of high school, I was wrestling in college a little bit, but then I ended up I like moved out, so I had to get a job and pay rent and stuff. It just didn't match up with the wrestling practices, and so I was like, oh, I'll give MMA a try. I hit up David Avila, and he introduced me to the gym, and ever since then I started training there. And it was just like the next step in like a goal. Like my goal was at first like be the best wrestler I could be, and then I was like, okay, well, after wrestling, nobody makes any money wrestling, so I'm gonna try fighting. So then I just kind of stepped into that, and then just didn't go. I would say that my competitive career didn't go as well as I would hope. And then so I got to a certain point where I just really started focusing on coaching and really understanding how to relay like the techniques that I learned to other people, as opposed to like, putting all my effort into competing myself. So that's kind of how that happened.
I think I've heard a similar thing from Manny. He was telling me the same thing. Like he loved actually competing, but it was like mentoring and helping out in the actual gym that he enjoyed that part of it more. Like
Yeah.
I know, you're in your like early 30s or so. You competed for a little while yourself. You're actually on the Ultimate Fighter, which I didn't even know until I opened up your Instagram bio and I was like, wait, what? So I looked it up and I saw, yeah, the McGregor Faber season, you competed against
Yeah.
Tom Galicia. How long ago was that in terms of like your competitive career and what significance did that have for it?
You know what, dude? It was actually huge. It was, I would say I would call that like the downfall of my career. Like, so like I got on the show and I lost to Tom. And it was weird because we had two guys on the show. And then my coach, you don't know anybody, like they just match you up like right when you're there. And you're like, oh, you're fighting this guy. So my coach is trying to find out everything he can about my guy and then one of my teammates' guys. And he gets like the information swapped, right? So like he tells me that, uh, he tells me that the guy that I'm fighting is like, he's like kind of like mediocre everywhere. But he's really well rounded, but he's not like a specialist. And he tells me the guy that my teammate is fighting is like a black belt. He's been like a pro for like 10 years and he's got a really good rear naked choke. Ends up that I fight the guy that's, you know what I mean? So it's a black belt. And like, so like when he went for a takedown on me, I didn't really take it too serious because I didn't think this guy's a black belt. I know how to wrestle, I know how to grapple and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. I was trying to like more land strikes. And then anyways, long story short, he ended up catching me rear naked choke. I lost that fight. And after that, man, it was like, so hard finding fights because nobody wants to fight me because I was on Ultimate Fighter, but I need to get fights so that I can make it back to where I was. You know what I mean? So then I ended up having to take a short notice fight against Davi Ramos, who's now like he's like just had his first loss in the UFC, um, and he was like an ADCC champion, like Brazilian black belt, like super good guy. And I had a really good fight against him, and I took that fight on like 8 days' notice. I cut like 32 pounds, I think, in 8 days, and um, like had a good fight against him. And then I made one mistake. I threw like a low leg kick. He caught it, and then again I didn't take his grappling seriously. I started trying to throw strikes instead of like disengaging. Took me down and fucking I like it was crazy. That was like the first time I saw another level of grappling. Like as soon as I hit the mat, he was on my back and he had his arm under my neck, and it was like nothing I could do about it. It's crazy.
So you said you cut 32 pounds in that short amount of time. What weight class was that at?
155.
155. You're not a small dude, so 155 is like, oh,
Yeah, you know what, dude, is I had like so I did Ultimate Fighter 155. I did that fight at 155, and then I did another one that I lost that fight after that too. And like I said, it was like my downfall because like from then my like kind of morale started going down and like my mentality, and I wasn't really confident in myself. And I lost all three fights that I ever did at 155, even though I felt really good at them. It was really weird. But since then, that's like when I kind of decided, like after that third fight, I was like, you know what? If I do fight again, I'm not doing the whole cutting weight thing the same way. Like I fight at 170. You know, have people be bigger than me, but just feel better. Like I'm too old for that shit. You know?
well, I mean, of course, you did come back and you did fight after that. I know
Yeah.
you won a title here recently. What was the story leading up to that? Of course, the massive weight cuts to 155 being like not a very small guy. I mean, I'm like probably half a foot shorter than you, and I'm like just my resting weight is in the 170s. So I couldn't even imagine getting down to that weight at your size.
Yeah, dude, it was fucking rough. It was like my initial the reason why I did it was because I was training with two guys, Lorenz Larkin and Sean Strickland, and they both were fighting at 185, and they were both in the UFC, and they both decided to drop down to 170, and I was like, oh fuck, dude, like if these fucking dudes are dropping down to 170, like they're way stronger than me. I got to drop down lower, and so I did, and then yeah, things went the way they did, but then I realized like when they're training and when they were around 170, like when they were like cutting weight, I was tossing them around, you know?
Yeah.
So I was comparing myself to when they were at their fullest and I was at my fullest. And so then I started to realize, like, you know what? Like, I would rather be at my fullest and most nutritionally fed, and not sacrifice the weight and the stamina, and you know, let everybody else do that and kill themselves. And I tend to be like better and more energized there, you know?
I can imagine. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
significant weight cuts like that. I mean, I wrestled my freshman year of high school. That's kind of like where I started out too. I think a lot of us start out with just
Yeah.
strictly wrestling and then kind of get into things from there. I know you've picked up, it seems like jujitsu is one of the big like sports, like aspects of the sport that you've picked up on. You're what, brown belt now? Was the transition
Yeah.
into, being a wrestler and of course going straight for the jujitsu stuff too?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a really natural progression. You know, it's
Yeah.
just it's more comfortable. When I my first like fucking like 13 fights, like I just would throw like one or two strikes and just try to grab somebody's legs and take them to the ground. You know what I mean? Like I would get so scared that I would just go to what I knew. And like grappling, like you know how to if you wrestle, you know how to control somebody. If you do jiu-jitsu, you know how to control somebody. So if you go from one to the other, it's a pretty easy transition. Going from wrestling or jiu-jitsu to striking is like a whole different thing. You know what I mean? It's scary. You're getting hit. Like there's a danger of you going like just like being unconscious in a split second. Like you don't see it coming. It's just so much. It's a lot more. There's a lot more fear, at least for me, that goes with striking than grappling.
It's like you have less control. I mean, leading up to this, like the whole pandemic thing, I was training as jujitsu under a different, like a professor as a Gracie black belt. I actually had him on
Uh,
last week, Ryan
nice.
Falcione. Yeah, it was awesome
Oh, I
time. It
think I know.
was
I think I where we're at. We're at
Upland.
Upland. Yeah, I think I know.
Yeah.
One of my friends like used to train with him back in like Corona, like 10 years ago. I think I've heard the name.
I've talked to him about Millennia and stuff before. Like when I first started out, he knew I had a little bit of wrestling, nothing crazy, just I knew the
Yeah.
basics, and we talked about that a little bit. He says he's mentioned he's gone over and trained Millennia. He knows like Romy and all them, so
Nice.
he's come through. So yeah, it
Nice.
was really cool getting to train under him, and I noticed the same thing. Like we were all white belts, none of us knew what we were doing, but the people who had a little bit of wrestling background, like you could tell, and transitioning that into striking is, I mean, it's a completely different game. At least as a wrestler, you kind of like, okay, I can position myself this way, I can control this part of the body, they can't stand up here. But striking is completely different, like you said with your fight, that one leg kick and now all of a sudden you're on your back, and
Yeah.
it's a completely different game.
Yeah. 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 And it's like with like wrestling and grappling, it's like more about like contraction of the body. You know what I mean? Like you're contracting your muscles constantly, and you're wrapping somebody up. Where it's like striking, it's like you're you're at your best when your muscles are the loosest and when you're the most relaxed. So coming from fucking 4 years of just being just an aggressive meathead to going to try and learn how to finesse shit, it just like it didn't compute. like very quickly, you know?
Yeah, I can definitely I know what you mean. Like it's sort of like this whole turtle thing. You got to wrap your body up tight. And with striking, it's like if you do that, you're stiff-legged, you're flat-footed, and it's a lot easier to get picked apart like that. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things I talked to Falcione about last week, and he's like full-blown PhD, is professor like philosophy and all that stuff.
Nice, man.
One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of either fighters or people who are just interested in fighting, you being one of them, have an interest in philosophy. The two like cross each other a lot. There's a lot of intersections there, and of course, you had your podcast, Today's Everything, and I know you're a little bit of an emo kid too, and I have that, some of that background
Yeah.
as well. And there's something about those three things. It's like fighting, philosophy, and heavier music. You see that
Yeah.
all over the place. What exactly, how do those come together for you? And are they at all connected?
I well, you know, I never thought about the connection of the three of them, but I mean, they're like the biggest three things in my life, you know, like music, philosophy, and jujitsu. So, you know, I think that jiu-jitsu, that the reason, you know, if you look at it from an outside standpoint, it doesn't look like, you know, they call it the gentle art. You know, it doesn't look like the gentle art. But if you're familiar with like Muay Thai and wrestling and kickboxing and boxing, it's the gentlest art, you know, of all those things. And I think the reason for that is because it requires to be great at it, it requires a lot of thought. Like, and you see that with somebody like Gordon Ryan, you know, and you see a lot of people who do jujitsu. Like you could see somebody go walk onto a basketball court or a football field, and you could like be like, oh, that's gonna be the best guy at this. You know what I mean? You could look at his physique and look at what it looks like and be like, oh, he's gonna be the best. In a jiu-jitsu gym or like on the mat, like you don't know who it's gonna be. You know what I mean? It could be the chubby little stubby dude, it could be the tall, lanky guy with no muscle, it
Uh,
could be the fucking ripped fucking freak, athletic freak, you know what I mean? But it's like it's not just the physical attributes of jiu-jitsu that makes you good. It's like you have to understand it and you have to think. And I think that's where the philosophy comes in too, as far as you know the end point. And philosophy is all about what you're trying to attain, right? You're trying to attain a flourishing life. You're trying to do what's right, and you're trying to, you know what I mean. But philosophy is about thinking about all the ways you can get there, right? Like if you know the end point, but it's like up to you. Now, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you where you want to be, and now you're trying to figure out how to get there. We all share how we get there, and we all pick the good parts of, you know, how we are able to get there, and then, you know, I don't know. That's how, like, jiu-jitsu just seems like the endpoint is submission, and there's so much freedom of how to get there, you know.
it's funny that you mentioned King shit poster himself, Gordon Ryan. He's the best.
Yeah. Fucking
But
important.
take a look at his Instagram if you ever want like several hours of entertainment. But yeah, I think, of course, like the whole point of philosophy, and there's a big component of know thyself too. I think with jujitsu more so than other combat sports, it requires you to know yourself, to know your strengths,
Yes.
to know your weaknesses, to know, like me, for example, my legs are incredibly short, so there's certain ways I have to modify these techniques to fit my style. There's a lot of creative freedom, like you were saying, and you do have
Yeah.
there's an extra level of patience and thought that you have to put into it, extra level of calculation instead of remaining loose and trying not to get punched in the face really hard.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, man. And yeah, that for me, that's why I just like I lean towards jiu-jitsu more, just because I have a lot more fun doing it. I feel like I can express myself a little bit more there, and that's it. I just feel like I have more fun expressing myself in a grappling manner than I do in a striking manner. I love them both, but if I had to choose one, it would be grappling.
I was a little surprised about that too, because that's sort of the same conclusion that I was coming to, just starting out in jujitsu, because I don't know anything yet, but
Yeah.
just training and really getting a grip for it and go like rolling with the upper level belts that we were training with and starting to understand their styles and actually being able to take like having an analytical mind and be like, okay, this is how they position themselves. They move this way. I can move that way is a little more engaging to me than the other martial arts were all great and all necessary. You should have a foundation in all of them if you're trying to be good at it in any kind of way, but is the most creative. And I think for someone who, again, emo kids, all about creativity. all about creativity, being able to express yourself. It's an incredible feeling being able to actually implement a strategy and have it work and
Yeah,
see it work. The same way you
yeah,
can paint a painting or talk to someone or whatever it is, and you can see the fruits of your labor there.
yeah. And I seen, I've been around the gym for like 10 years, maybe a little more than 10 years now. So I've been around, like I've seen people come through and leave and stuff. And like, for the most part, that's how it happens. Most people come in wanting to be these like badass kickboxers. They were seeing some video online, and they come in with their fucking boxing gloves and their shin guards and shit, like all excited. And then, years later, down the line, they're a fucking purple belt, and they don't even their gloves, the first pair of gloves they bought, are not used anymore. Like they love jiu-jitsu. Like that's what everybody is drawn by the striking aspect, and they fall in love with jiu-jitsu. I see it like over and over and over again.
Everybody wants to walk in being Crow Cop, little Croatian shorts and
Yeah,
everything.
dude.
Yeah,
No, it's like,
yeah,
I mean, it's like it's sexy, right? To like knock somebody out. Like
yeah.
there's excitement. It's like being a home run hitter or like a fucking Shaquille O'Neal where you get like slam dunks all the time. It's like it's the exciting thing to the non-fan. You know what I mean? But like it's the same thing when you get like a band. You know what I mean? Like usually bands, as they release albums, get worse, right? And it's because I think they start making music for musicians and less music for fans, you know what I mean? And people just stop liking it. And it's just like the more you learn, the more you're going to appreciate the thing that is the harder thing to do. And you're going to try to do that thing.
Yeah, I mean that's even seen in a lot of course, the UFC is a great example. You go to a pub or a bar or whatever, and anytime anybody lands a takedown, everybody's throwing up their hands and
Yeah.
complaining and all that stuff. Well, meanwhile, if you have even a little bit of knowledge about the sport, and thankfully a lot of fans like are training now and do have like an aspect and the ability to look at what's happening and like, okay, so there's a sweep there, oh, he's in half guard, like they know the names of the positions, that's cool. But yeah, it's incredibly fascinating to look at and to watch if you actually know what's going on. Like it's a lot more of a chess match, and everybody loves a Gaethje fight or something where they just go out and swing for the bleachers and see what happens. But personally, I like watching the grappling a lot more now, especially now. I mean, you got Habib and Gaethje coming up. That's going to be
Yeah.
an incredible one, because we all know
Yeah.
what's going to happen on one end of that, but it's all about
Yeah.
being able to stop the ground game, being able to just dictate where the fight happens.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. And it's like, I think, just like you see, it's like the more understanding you have of it, the more you appreciate those things that other people don't appreciate. It's like they're like, I would say that you've got like, so there's like football right on one end, and you've got like say baseball or maybe like soccer, right? And like baseball and soccer seem like they're pretty boring. Football's really exciting, right? Like, but you got most of the people who like football are like the meatheads, right? And they love to see people get hit and get fucked up. And you got people over here that like baseball and soccer, and they understand the intricacies of the sport. They understand like how important a single or a cross across the field is, or whatever, you know what I mean. And they get excited when the ball is close to the goal line, and whatever. And you get both of those in MMA, right? You got the meatheads who just want to see people get fucked up, and then you got the people who understand the intricacies of the sport and understand how important the takedown was and how they time that takedown off of a strike and yada yada, and they see how beautiful it is. You know what I mean? It's like that's the good thing about MMA is you have something to offer to both of those crowds.
Totally great metaphor. I just really wish I could appreciate baseball and soccer more. Is I even knew like my dad and everything. He's a big baseball fan. He grew up playing it. I played it when I was a kid, and I played soccer too. And especially now, I'm not a sports guy at all. I like MMA, but
Yeah.
that's about it. And that's the only sport that I kind of keep up to date with. Even knowing like, okay, I can tell what he's doing. He's swinging the bat this way, all this throwing technique. I'm just sitting there like, well, this is boring.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
can't get into it.
So I just pretty much called you a meathead then, right?
Yeah, you just called me a meathead.
No,
See,
dude,
oh,
the only two, like, that's really for me, the only sports that I like that I watch are MMA and baseball. And baseball is just a weird one. It's just that, like, my dad really liked baseball. That was like his sport. So I grew up like getting baseball cards with my dad and looking at Beckett's and shit, and then like watching baseball. So it's like it's a nostalgia thing. So I enjoy that. But you also learning to appreciate baseball is like learning to appreciate fucking like piano. You know what I mean? It's just like, like, I don't know. It's like you appreciate there's not a lot of like in your face excitement. Like, okay, so let's get that. Like, you like Futurama and Family Guy and shit, right? Like, I know you watch that shit. So it's like the difference between Futurama and Family Guy. Family Guy is like fucking in your face, and you know when you're supposed to laugh. You know what I mean? And then Futurama, there's a lot of like hidden subtle jokes that to me like are way fucking funnier, dude. That shit cracks me the fuck up. You know what I mean? And it's just like catching the like I like the things where you got to search for the significance of things, and it's not right in your face.
Well, even like stand-up comedy is sort of the same thing, showing that same level of appreciation. You've got like a Brian Regan who's is a I wouldn't say obscene, but is just like goofy, funny, like immediately gut-busting laughter, as opposed to like a George Carlin, where you're sitting there
Yes.
actually thinking and listening about it. And I can listen to Carlin talk all day long.
Yeah.
His audio, like his books are great, but I want to hear him tell it to me, because just the
Yeah.
way that he expresses himself. And again, I think this is a component of like philosophical thinking too, is drawing all these connections between things. Like, absolutely. In terms of like philosophy and stuff, because it's very apparent that this is a part of all the things that you do, whether it's on the mats and paying close attention to what your opponent's doing and coming up with a strategy, or musically speaking with the things that you appreciate and enjoy. With Stoicism, I know that was a big component of the podcast that you were doing. Is that one of the philosophies that you were the most educated or apply the most to your life, or are there others too?
Yeah, no, I would say Stoicism is probably the biggest one that was really like a big shift for me in my life. But I would say that I started practicing Stoicism before I knew what it was, and then I learned about it, and I saw people smarter than me put the things that I was trying to do in more coherent terms. You know what I mean? In more well-defined terms. So I really took to Stoicism, and then I had a good phase like where I was really into it. And then now I kind of feel like I'm living my life knowing Stoicism and keeping those things here, but like in certain areas being like, well, you know what, like I'm not a strict like Stoic, you know what I mean? I guess is what I'm saying. I love Stoicism. It's my favorite philosophy, but probably just because it's the one I'm most familiar with. But I'm not like a super strict Stoic, and I wouldn't call myself a Stoic. But I think that Stoicism and most other philosophies, their core message is the same. It's like, don't worry about the things that you can't control. Worry about the things that you can't control and adhere to those things. And that's like the biggest one. Do the best that you can for you, by you, and things that you won't be ashamed of, and do the things that will pay off the most dividends, not that will pay off the most immediate, results. And it's all this like every philosophy or religion I've ever seen has said the same thing.
Essentially, there's like that underlying universalism. I was recently listening to someone who I'm actually going to be talking to pretty soon on here. He mentioned that within all spiritual systems, he doesn't necessarily apply the universal label to it, because they all are different. But within all like religions and philosophies too, spiritual truths are spiritual truths, and they're going to find them regardless of the speaker. Whether it's in India with the Hindus, or it's in the Sumerian culture, or wherever you look, those same spiritual truths are going to be there. Patience, courage, tenacity, stuff like that. It's all kind of applicable in the same thing. Like, what makes the Stoics particularly interesting, though, especially now, because we're kind of seeing like this big boom in the past few years with like Stoic podcasts and authors like Ryan Holiday and different guys kind of coming up in the scene and really taking this philosophy and applying a modern stint to it. What exactly do you think is the reason for that? Being a part of that as well as I am.
I think that, it's one of those things where everybody kind of, we have this belief nowadays that anything that's old is better than what's now, So I think it may just be one of those things. I also think that Ryan Holiday is a fantastic author, and he's just a good author, and he just happened to be talking about Stoicism. So I think he helped get out a lot of that word out to a lot of people. And I think as far as my world goes, so one of my favorite authors is Mark Manson, and he's the one that wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And and like I saw this whole system that these authors do. Like he has this thing in his book where he references Ryan Holiday's book, right? And then tells you like, oh, and this is from Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, blah, blah. And then but Mark Manson is talking about in his book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, he's talking, it's all Stoicism, but he's talking about it in a more conversational and more palatable way. And then he turns you over to Ryan Holiday, who's talking about it in a really straightforward and dry way, but just like straight information. And then from there, Ryan Holiday is talking about Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. And for me, that's what I went from Subtle Art to Obstacle is the Way to Marcus Aurelius' Meditations to Epictetus. And I just kind of went more and more dry, but more straightforward down. And I think these guys just have become very popular because of the way that those two to me are very popular because of the way they write, because they're very good writers. And they've just used their popularity to maybe resurrect the Stoic philosophy.
Mark Manson, his like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is incredible. I was able to download that on like
amazing.
An audiobook and actually listen to it. Not only was the performer incredible, but just the content of the book. Like he covers all kinds of topics in that one, from like relationships to obviously the Stoicism stuff, referencing Ryan Holiday's Obstacle is the Way. I like that parallel that you drew in terms of like starting out with a very conversational kind of poetic expression of Stoic philosophy, and then it moves gradually to the this book is 2,000 years old, good luck trying to read this without a dictionary kind of thing. Like yeah, Ryan Holiday stuff, I remember it's The Obstacle is the Way. That particular book is kind of broken up into different like historical figures and how they applied certain things to their like Stoic philosophy to their life. And look what it is. Like, look at the product that we have of this. My personal favorite, I think, like Meditations I've read through a bulk of, but Seneca the Younger was really the one that stuck out to me. Just his writing style, how sarcastic he was and the way that he approached it, the letters that he wrote to Lucilius and all the incredible stuff. And it's 2,000 years old, but this, if you tweak the English a little bit, maybe fit it into 250 characters, can post some of this stuff on Twitter. This is something that could have been written today. And I think that might be the most appealing thing about the philosophy, is especially living in the, like you said, everything that's old is better. I think that might be true in some cases, but it's just incredibly applicable now.
Yeah. Well, it like, I wouldn't say that everything is old is better, but it's like, everything that is old can't be improved upon always. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like there's certain things like that where I always like to I think about these universal truths, and I got like that. That's a term I got from Musashi from the Five Rings. He talks about like the universal truths a lot, and it's just things that are learned in one aspect or realm of life that can be applied everywhere. You know what I mean? And it's like those underlying truths I talked about earlier with like Stoicism and like pretty much all theology. It's like those things are not going to change, and it's like with Stoicism that's where I first started learning that to like kind of get a hold of my emotions, and almost like we're in a day and age where everybody's talking about honoring their emotions and stuff like that, where I think Stoicism taught me to like disregard my emotions. And I'm actually like, I'm happy about that. Like, I'm not sad. Like, I'm not an unhappy person, but I don't let my emotions take the best of me. And I'm not going to honor them when I know that they're being fucking like unlogical,
It might be a little easier to manage your emotions when you're choking people out and kicking people in the face too. But that's another interesting thing about Stoicism, in another movement that's been around for quite a while anyway, but Buddhism is seeing a massive revival. I'm a college age guy myself, and it's huge in like just our group, like our age range. And I think because we're being, our particular generation is, like you said, honor your emotions, express them, and in so doing that you almost let them dominate you and you let them control you. Just be yourself, chase things, chase your dreams, chase your goals. It's this very materialistic way of viewing the world, kind of dressed up as spirituality, as like manifestations. And
it's like so everything is so hot and cold, like, and nobody tells you like, hey, honor your emotions, but be careful of them. They just say, hey, honor your emotions. You know what I mean? They don't tell you, hey, disregard your emotions, but don't push them down because they're going to build up and take advantage of you. I mean, like they don't tell you the other side, they just tell you the one thing. And that's what, like, the whole, where everybody's at right now, I think it's just because everything that is put out is so polarizing. It's either everything that's put out is so that you either love this thing or you hate this thing, and you're loved by these people and you're hated by these people.
It's a very dualistic way of thinking. I think we as Americans are pretty adjusted to that. It is or it isn't. It's black or it's white. It's blue or it's red. It's got to be one of those two things. And again, that might echo the same sentiment. Like that's why things like Buddhism, which is very much an advocate for seeing the world in a very different way. Like in terms of what you place your value on, managing your emotions, but not letting them control you. Like these subtleties and these extra levels of detail that we don't necessarily have within like Christianity, for example. One of the reasons that's seeming to peter out amongst younger generations, and why things like Stoicism are being put up on that pedestal, and Buddhism and the New Age movement, and like even occultism to some extent. Yeah, which is a particular interest of mine, has been for a while. Like just seeing those systems, and it's funny listening to interviews and stuff back from the 80s and 90s where people were almost predicting this, like when the 2000s come, everybody's going to start it's going to start picking up a little bit. The occult movement's going to pick up steam. Eastern spirituality is going to pick up steam. Like, I think you can blame anything from technology to that, to political unrest, whatever you want to put the label on.
Yeah, it could be a lot of things. I mean, I think technology has a lot to do with, like, I mean, it has something to do with everything, It's like we probably would have heard, I was born in 87, so I grew up through the 90s, and I grew up like right before the internet came out and stuff. And it was like back when like we knew about communism and we knew about philosophy and like Plato and stuff, but like that's all you heard. You're like, oh yeah, Plato, who's that? Oh, he's a Greek guy that was like smart, like that, like that's it, But it's like now you can hear about something and you can like look it up and you can read everything there is to read about it, and then you can make your own decision, and you can make your own decision about how you feel about it, and then whether or not the people who told you about it were lying to you or trying to sway you one way or the other about it.
That could be one of the things of philosophy too that kind of makes it, at least now with authors like Mark Manson and Ryan Holiday, is they make these very archaic seeming things like very approachable and very digestible, as opposed to like I can pick any book off the shelf that's like from older than 200 years old. Like it's going to take some time and effort to really get into that. Like, oh yeah, like you said, Plato, Aristotle, like all these really old Roman and Greek guys. Like, oh, who were they? I don't know. They wrote some cool stuff though.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's that's like the thing that's really cool about. I love and hate social media and tech and the internet. You know what I mean? Like, but one of the things that I love about it, because I learned most of everything I know by doing the wrong thing and not liking how it felt when I did the wrong thing. So like I was the guy that was like always like biased and like wanting one thing to be true, and then I would see something and then I would just repost it without reading what it was, and then somebody would be like, yo, this is like wrong, like check this out. And I was like, I never read it, I just want it to be true. So now everything I see before I have like before I even form an opinion on it, I think that's one thing people have a hard time do, is like not forming an opinion when they see something. And so before I form an opinion, I'll look up whatever I can. Like, oh, I'll see it. I'm like, that's kind of it's kind of weird. That's kind of sketchy. I'm going to look into this as much as I can to see how I feel about it. I don't care what you're telling me about it, but I'm going to see how I feel about it. I'm going to put a pin in it and get back to it later.
And that's a level of like forethought that a lot of people aren't paying. I mean, a lot of the controversies and big like events that we've had happen, especially even over the past year, all the riots that happened, all the pandemic stuff, and just the ridiculous amount of misinformation that was thrown out about these things. You saw a lot of people basically forming opinions by like, oh, I like how this sounds, that must be true, or it's true to me, I believe it's true, therefore it is true, which is, not how that works. But again, Twitter would disagree. But you start, and I think everybody's been, we've all done that at one point or another. Like you look at this picture, You look at this graph that's so vague that it could really be applied to anything. You're like, yeah, that seems true. And you share it, and then someone will call you out on it. You're like, okay, maybe I should take an extra look at that. And that level of forethought, I think, is something that we're all going to have to pay more attention to. The more digital things become, everybody is essentially a journalist at this point. Everybody could take out their phone and let me film something without any context. You're like, oh, wait, no, this is actually what happened. It's like, it's a constant just perpetuation of disinformation. And I think we'd all be a little bit better off if we had Walkmans in our pockets instead of iPhones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like it's just the whole bias thing of everything. I think the biggest thing is the bias, but the lack of self-reflection that people have. They like see the people that they don't like, and then they just condemn those people, but then don't realize that they have those things within themselves. Like my wife, I always tell her, like, I was like, yeah, like I learned to steer into the skid when I was a young age, and I call like steering into the skid is like whenever I do something that's fucked up, like I'm gonna be the first one to call it out before you can call it out. So it's like it's gonna be less. It's not as hard when you call it out first. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I know, I get it, and then that taught me awareness, and that taught me to see the things that I do, and then from there it taught me to see the things I do. Then it taught me to see the things that I feel like doing that are shit things. And I'm always telling myself like, nah, that's a shit thing. Don't do that. No, that's a shit thing. Don't do that. And I have it in me. Like when I see somebody do somebody do a shit thing, I'm like, man, that was a shit thing. And then I go, like, what circumstance would I have to be in for me to do that shit thing? Because I don't think that I wouldn't do that shit thing ever. I think that person is probably just in a circumstance that they broke and they did that shit thing.
It's in a surprising lack of self-awareness. Like if you're on your phone, you're on Instagram, social media, whatever, you're looking at a collage of just how awesome you are all the time. And you're just comments like, wow, you're great. Like that's
like the best way to put it. That's such a good way to put it.
You're just like, yeah, look how awesome I am all the time.
Yeah.
Cindy thinks so. Emily thinks so. Brian thinks so. It's very masturbatory.
It's like a life highlight.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So you can almost fool yourself into thinking like, wow, I'm this great person. And you see something else on this social media app. You're like, oh, wow, this person's terrible. Let me explain why they're terrible. And then without you post that, and then people throughout your life are in your DMs all of a sudden like, don't you remember the time you got drunk and hit a kid or something like that? Like there's surprising lack of self-awareness. What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, this is a crappy thing. Nobody's saying this isn't terrible, but for you to be the one to stand up and act like you have any moral onus against this, like this is something that you're completely incapable of, relax. And it's a lot easier to villainize people when you come at it that way too. Like, I'm incredible, I'm great, Facebook says so you're terrible. That's kind of what it comes down to.
And the thing to realize, like the thing to realize is like we talk about it, and it's like these people, like they do that, and it's like the people who do that, it's like they're in the wrong. But then you got to realize that that's the reason why they do that, because that's everybody's subconscious first reaction. That's what you want to do. That's what you're like the back of your brain wants you to do, because it's what's going to make you feel the best. And it's like you can't check that thing if you don't acknowledge that it exists inside you.
The same way you got to manage your emotions, and the only way you can really do that is by being aware of them. You can only check yourself when you subtract yourself from this cacophony of people telling you that you're the best thing in the world. It's this level of self-awareness and self-reflection, which is a big thing in Stoicism. Waking up every morning, meditation, taking a second to really reflect on your day. And not just to say like, oh yeah, I had some fun earlier, or that was a really good lunch or whatever. Like, no, reflect on the decisions that you made so you can then apply them to making yourself better.
Yeah.
And being open about the fact that you kind of suck sometimes, because we all do.
Yeah. And that's where I think the whole honor your emotions movement, like they miss it by just making it so simple, because it's like like if you go honor your emotions and you work for a week straight and it's Friday night, right? And you're like, wow, I worked for a week straight. I'm going to get drunk. I'm going to get fucking blackout drunk now. And that's what the weekend's for. And I'm going to celebrate that I just did the status quo for a week, you know? And it's like, you feel good and you should be proud of yourself for working 40 hours this week and doing what you had to do. And that's it, you know, like you should feel good about it, but you don't need to do it. You don't need to take it a step further. And it's like, if you do something bad, people are like, they're getting super emotional about it and like feeling really shitty about themselves and not letting it go. It's like, no, like if you do something bad, honor your emotions means like, what are you feeling? Guilt? Like, what are you feeling guilty about? You did this to that person, then go apologize, right? That'll fix your guilt. You know what I mean? It's like a negative emotion is like a call to action. You need to do something. But I think all of us just go like, oh, I feel this way and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to feel this way. I just feel my feelings, you know? But you just don't see the other side of it, I guess.
That's another excellent parallel I think you've drawn. Like the same way you work a full 40-hour work week, and Friday nights with the boys, we're gonna get hammered, we're gonna get into some fights, we're gonna have a great time. The same way, the same way. I mean, at the end of the day, when Friday comes, you get off work. What's the reality of the situation? You work 40 hours a week. You did what you had to do, and you got your money. That's all there is. There doesn't need to be this follow up of so I get to do this.
Yep.
The same way, if you're upset about something and you wallow in it and you let it consume you, that doesn't mean that I am this because I'm feeling this way. I'm upset right now. That doesn't mean I'm a piece of shit. That just means that something happened that's upsetting me. There has to be there doesn't have to be this and then this, like this follow up to it. But I think that's actually something in like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yep.
It's like one of the ways they have you manage your emotions is write down what you're feeling and gradually point down arrows. I feel this way because of this, because of this, because of this. And eventually you get to the core of the issue, which is I'm upset about this thing because of this thing that happened 6 months ago that I just never got over. Like that's how you manage your emotions, not by rewarding yourself with getting plastered, which, you know, fine every now and then, but as well as, you know, not punishing yourself too extremely. It's managing them within the bounds of reason.
Yeah. I'm a huge believer as far as like when it comes to like universal truths, like I was talking about earlier, like delayed gratification of anything. You know what I mean? Like I think that's always going to be the best thing. So it's like I think that we're such an instant, and it's such an instant place in our progression is like as far as technology and stuff that everything just comes instantly. You do something and like, you know, you post a picture on Instagram and then you get likes immediately. You get to see it. And then you have to keep looking back and like you see it. And then as the day gets later, you see less and less, and then people stop liking that picture. You know what I mean? So it's like the opposite of what it should be. One of the things that are like really long lasting are the things that you do and nobody tells you good job right away. Nobody tells you like you don't feel good about it until like you keep doing it. And then like a year or two later, you kept doing it without being gratified for it. And you just get everything, you know what I mean? You just get fully gratified for it. And those are the things to me that are the most important, you know?
That's tough. I mean, it really is, especially since I can even use myself as an example. Like you have this really long-term goal. I want to be a college professor with a PhD in philosophy. You're looking at like a 10-year gap between when you start and when you finish. And what can be really difficult about that is you're working through, oh, I got my bachelor's degree and I'm going to be working at this place. I'm not going to be getting all the gratification, the money now, but I'm going to eventually. Meanwhile, you have your contemporaries running around buying cars, buying houses, starting families, and like, I really want to do that thing, but I can't yet. You're not seeing the payback on it yet. You're like, you get frustrated. You feel like you're stuck in the mud, but you're not stuck in the mud. You just happen to choose something that's going to take a lot longer to get there.
The payoff, yeah. I mean, that's exactly it, dude. It's like, yeah, I don't know, I don't know. I can't even go on top of that anymore. That's exactly how it is.
It's no less frustrating. I mean, especially like the way that technology has sped everything up and made everything so instantly, like, oh, my phone flashes and I feel really good, flashes again, I feel even better, and then eventually it dies off and you kind of need that next fix. And that's incredibly difficult to do when you're pursuing a career of some kind or pursuing a goal that's going to take a very long time. Like even with this, like beyond the well. I've put effort into it, put time into it, editing, logo design. I got help with all this other stuff. It takes time. It takes
Yeah.
time to build stuff like this up. It takes time to get sponsorships, whatever it is you're looking for. And it's always important to be able to sit yourself down and, to bring this back to the martial arts thing, as a white belt like I am now, it's going to take a long time to get there. You'll have moments of victory along the way, but you have to stick with it. You have to keep doing it. And that is unfortunately a revolutionary idea right now.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Yeah, it is really crazy. And like going back to your thing about, saying like being a college professor with a PhD in philosophy and stuff. And it's like you could be like at the beginning of it, it seems so daunting, you're like, man, 10 years, fuck. Like, when the fuck is that gonna be? It's like, but then let's say you don't do it. Like you're like, all right, that's what I want to do. And then it's like 2021. You're like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Then it's like 2020. Next thing you know, you're 27 years old and you go, fuck, I could be 2 years away from, if I would have started when I decided I want to do it, I could be 2 years away from it. But I was so pressured. I had so much pressure from the beginning of it that I never gradually just worked through it and put it into bite-sized pieces so I could get to the end of it.
Yeah, that's kind of how emotions work too, don't they? I mean, you start out with this catastrophic thing that happened to you. The circumstances don't change, but over time, you adapt. You figure out a way to fit this class into your schedule. You figure out a way to, okay, I can drive here at this time, get to work at this time. You adapt to the situation. And I think that's one of my favorite things about Stoic philosophy in particular is that it's very adaptable. And that's one of the things that it teaches. That's one of the main theories behind a lot of the practices is so you become adaptable to your situation. You don't let your emotions dominate you. You learn to control them to the extent that you can. And it's really just focusing on what's right here in front of you because it's all that you really have and learning how to fit the circumstances into like of your life into the goals that you have, into the schedule that you have, and learning to make that all work instead of being overwhelmed by it because without you, none of these circumstances would exist anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing that's like really weird that I see a lot is like you see a lot of people when things happen to them, they spend a lot of time reacting to how those things make them feel, let's say like something, good or bad, but like let's say something bad happens to them and they sit there for days like being like, why is this happening to me? I can't believe this happened to me. Like I'm so bummed that this happened to me. Instead of just being like, well, this happened, that sucks. Like but now that means I have to do this. You know what I mean? And then like so instead of just doing that, they just like cushioned that whole thing and wasted some time and then got to that. And same thing happens when you do something good. Like you do something good and you sit there with your emotions on it, how good it made you feel. And that made you feel good. And then you're like, well, I'm gonna do something else that makes you feel good. And now I'm gonna do something else that makes you feel good. And next thing you know, you're in like a fucking 2-month bender, like off of you got like an A on a test and you've just been drunk for you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's how people become drug addicts and develop problems. They're just trying to look for their next quick fix,
Well, even to kind of take it something bad happens to you, that bad thing wouldn't have been able to happen if you weren't there to receive it. You were you were the one that was there. You were the one who experienced that. This is like the problems that you have are your problems. They would not exist without you. There's a way to take this and spin it whatever way that you need to spin it. And it's sort of the same thing with being addicted to pleasure. Like you can walk down the street and ask any number of drug addicts you see or people who are homeless, like what that pursuit of pleasure led them to. And not all cases are that extreme, but that's what the pursuit of pleasure leads down. You're going to receive pleasure, but there's going to be an equal amount of pain on the other end of that, if not greater.
Yeah, and that's the exact opposite of delayed gratification, right? And it's so it's so inversely like correlated. Like the quicker the gratification, the worse the delayed consequence. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then like the more that almost like when you do something, like the worse it feels in the moment in that quick like instant, the better it'll pay off later. It's like working out, grinding through college, like anything that sucks is almost going to be better later, and anything that's good now is almost going to be sucky later if you just let it keep being good. It's all going to build up.
At the end of the day, don't let pleasure dominate you. Don't let pain dominate you. You got to figure out a way to make them work together. You got to find some
Yeah.
balance and ways to mediate these things. And I think we've pretty much demonstrated how martial arts fits into that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know how it transitioned to that, but I don't know. But like, that's really it's all a balance, you know. Like nothing stays stagnant on its own. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anything stays stagnant at all. Like, you either have to be like, you just have to constantly be like if it's like a ball, you just have to constantly be bouncing. It's to go up and down, up and down. So it's going to come down. You've got to hit it back up so it doesn't drop to the ground, and then it's going to come back down. So then you just got to keep putting it back and forth. Like if you leave something unaddressed, it will deteriorate no matter what it is. You know?
oh, definitely. And that's what you're going up, like the roller coaster of life thing. You know, you go up, you're going to have moments when you're going up, you're going to have moments when, you know, you're kind of going just vertically, you're not really gaining any speed, and you're going to have moments when you're plummeting. What you do in all of those times is important. Like the things that you do when you're building up, the meditations that you do, the reading that you do, the work that you put in, it's going to make the downfall, if you even want to say it that way, it's going to make it a lot easier. It's going to be a lot more cushioned. You're going to build up resistance and speed going down, but you're going to have all these positive practices that you put into place that are going to help the wind push back the tread a little bit.
Yep, yep. And it's like a lot of things are like that, man. Like it's like if you look at it, whatever you look at in the short term, it's just not good, dude. Like if you look at things in the short term, like the same that you're talking about, roller coaster of life, right? It's like up and down, and like I've just recently got into like investing into the stock market. It's the same thing. It's like if you just were every day we're like fuck, like I'm losing money today. I got to sell my shit. You know what I mean? Or I'm making money today. Like I'm gonna buy more of this. And it's like you're gonna screw yourself over. But if you look, it's like this, it's like up and down, up and down, up and down. But that's like over like a week or a month. But if you took that over 5 years, it would just be it always goes up. It's always up. You know what I mean? And like in your life, if you can do that, if you can, like, you're gonna have down lows, you're gonna have highs. But if overall you can look back and be like the general progression, it was a general progression. It was always up. Like from the starting point to the end point, it's up.
I think that's a great thing to kind of round this out on is coming back to the universal truths thing. Like whether you're applying it to any passion in your life, martial arts, music, whatever you're doing, patience, courage, tenacity, control, self-control, especially, all these things apply in attaining whatever it is that you want to attain. And as far as like stoicism goes and theology, spirituality stuff, you'll find that in just about everything that you do. And even just life experience. If you're applying for this job or working to get this position or working on mastering the piano, it's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take courage and a lot of these other universal truths to get to where you want to go. It's all about just not giving up on it, not just
Yep.
saying this is it, not just saying I've put enough time into this and being okay with the fact that your gratification is going to be a little delayed this time.
Yep. Because whatever you learn through not quitting that thing, like will teach you another thing, right? It might, like if you're working on mastering the piano, you might never have to play piano for an occupation, but you might have learned something along the road about not quitting, or a pattern that you recognize in piano that was a pattern that you could recognize in an engineering career or something. You know, it's going to make you a lot of money, you know, but you have to continue doing the thing to learn all the lessons. And if you just get to, it's almost like levels, you know, like if you get to the 15th level of playing piano, you probably you can zoom through the first 5 levels of the next thing you try to do.
Exactly. Everything you do, good or bad, hopefully mostly good, is going to teach you something about yourself. It's going to enlighten you in some kind of way, and you're going to level up in life. So the next thing that you do, it's going to be a little bit easier.
Yep.
So, thank you so much, Mike, for coming on. Of course, it's been a pleasure. I'd love to have you on to talk to you again. I look forward to actually getting in and training again once this whole thing is over.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, man, I appreciate you having me on, dude. This was enjoyable. This was like this type of conversation that I like to have. Like I had some new thoughts that I came to within the conversation, and those are always the best, you know, where you give, you receive, and you come to new. So
that's my favorite thing is being able to talk and be left with like, okay, what about this? They just contemplate and think about things for the rest of the day. That's always my
Yeah.
goal. I'm glad I was able to achieve that. Just for anybody who's curious, where can they, find you on social media and all the stuff that you're up to these days?
I'm mostly annoying people on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Flockness Monster. So it's an A because I couldn't put the ER at the end there instead of that. But it's like my last name, Flach, then Ness, like the Loch Ness Monster. That's really what it is, the play on those words. So you guys can check me out on there. I'm generally pissing people off and asking people questions that are hard to answer, and just showing people MMA technique and things that might help them out on there. So
It's always good stuff. And Monster, we all know slang is better. Always. Come on, Mike. It's always better. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Cool. Later.